dCarrie, welcome to the Erica James Travel Show. I am so happy to have you on here today. And I just want to welcome you and let's get started and dive into travel. How are you today?
Thank you so much for having me. I greatly appreciate it. I am doing well. I'm in New York. It was trash weather today, but the sun is trying to peek out for a little bit at the end of the day. So that's bringing, a little bit more energy to me. So thank you for asking. How are you?
I am doing well and I understand. I've come off of a rainy week myself in Nashville, Tennessee, but today is sunny and beautiful. So, we're back on track with, hot girl summer weather.
Well on our way.
Yes, exactly. So, thank you for being on my podcast today because I have to tell you, I was listening to Black Women's Travel Podcast. You were a guest on there, and I just randomly I was listening, and I'm telling you, you blew me away. I just felt a like, oh my God, I'm telling you, I was on at my desk listening and working. I was like, yes, yes, yes. And so that's why I reached out to you. Like, you have to be on my podcast because there were so many things you were talking about. And I'll dive into all those things later. But there were so many things you were talking about that I was like, you know what? I need her on my podcast. But let's start with who you are and what you are about, like travel and shit. Tell me all about that.
Well, I am a creative. I'm your friend that always, you have the friend that has a million ideas, but doesn't always follow through. This is one of the first things I have been pretty fucking consistent on following through. So I'm very proud of this creative endeavor in particular is my podcast, Travel N Shi podcast. And every week, I basically have a conversation about the nuanced ways that travel intersects with regular life. And I personally, through travel, have found that I have been able to mature, like myself more, and give other people more grace through my experiences through not just traveling but intentional travel. I found that if I actually pay attention to myself while I'm traveling, I'm better suited to get the most from my trips, and I'm better able to actively take advantage of all of the opportunities that my travels have been able to afford me.
Okay, so you say if you better pay attention to yourself. How do you better pay attention to yourself when you're traveling?
I literally check in, like, how are you feeling? What does what do you need? What do I need to focus on? What do I need to do more of? What do I need to do less of? I tried to go into all of my trips with an intention, and it doesn't have to necessarily be deep, right? Like, it doesn't have to
Yeah.
be, as rigid as an itinerary, more so a feel. Like, what do I want this trip to feel like is one of the first steps to actually booking and putting together a trip for myself. In my experience, I have found, do you want to explore? Do you want to relax? Do you want people? Do you want outside? Do you want foods? Do you want clothes? Do you want ocean? Do you want pool? Like, I always check in with myself and ask, what does my spirit need right now? Is this going to be a trip where I really feel like, you know what, I got to step outside my bubble and really try something new. I got to connect with new people. These are the type of people that I'm looking for. I find that when I am very honest with myself, knowing that, okay, I just need to slow down. I'm going to just get there and figure it out when I get there. And if figuring it out looks like staying in the Airbnb, or figuring out looks like I'm just going to go for a walk and stumble into something to eat. Like, I try to get a feel for where I am in my own personal growth, because regular life throws you regular shit. And
Right.
if I don't use the separation from normalcy, to really look at what's going on with me with a fresh set of eyes. Because it's one thing to kind of like go to sleep and wake up the next day and then tackle a new problem, right? You know how, I don't know about everybody else, but I'm one of those people that just will go to sleep when I get too stressed. I'm like, all right, well, this is it. Today's done. That's all I got for Friday. Tuesday, fuck you. I'm done. Go to sleep. I'll try whatever it is tomorrow. I kind of look at travel the same way. Like if I'm going through like a lot of stress at work, if I'm going through, stress with family or friends in particular, or whatever the hell I'm going through at the moment, I like to bring a new set of eyes through travel to whatever that problem or growing pain or just space in life that I happen to be in.
I feel you because I'm telling you, I think the solution to all stressful issues is going to sleep, waking back up, and you can deal with it so much better when you wake back up. So I feel you on that. Now, when you talk about your intentions on travel, do you plan the travel first or the intention first? Do you plan your trip first and then you say this is what my intention is, or I have this intention so I'm going to plan the trip?
I usually go with the trip first. So I'm kind of a last minute professional. I'm very good at last minute kind of things. So I've been known to book a trip like the day before I go kind of thing. Like, all right, let me get the Airbnb. I'm leaving tomorrow at 6. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And that's because I am very indecisive. Like I don't do very well with a lot of choices. So for my own peace of mind, kind of know what needs to happen first, second, third, or whatever. Like I don't necessarily do everything in the exact same order. I tend to consider where I'm going to go based on what my money says at the time. So if I know I can go, I usually know from my full time if I have, say, a weekend to play with, or if I have like a full week that I'll be off. And I can't really just put in for like time that I want. I have to kind of put in for, well, what's available? What am I getting? And I kind of move in a space of, all right, well, I got this date or this series of dates like a month in advance off. Let me figure out what I can afford to do in that space. Once I know where I'm going, then I'll kind of know, all right, so do I really want to be out and about in this location? Or is this someplace where I know the beaches are going to be popping? So let me really just focus on getting near the water, and I will check in and see on X amount of days, how adventurous am I feeling? What are available like activities and excursions are in an area? And then I'll kind of base what I know I'll be interested in. Like I'm a very much so history. I especially love Black history. So wherever I go, I know that if I want to check some museums, I'm going to make sure to schedule a day where I'm just going to wander around town or the area around the museums. So I try to go with the actual destination, and then I go based off of how I'm feeling or what I think I'll be into at that time to decide on, okay, so I'm going to stay further away from everything that's happening because I really don't want to be bothered, or I'm going to stay in the middle of everything because I know I'm ready for the excitement. I'm about outside right now. I want to go out. I want to see and do. So I know that I need to stay city center so I can walk. And then I use the other different, factors, if you will, of an area. Is it walkable? Are there transit systems, decent or not? And, am I going to rent a car? Am I paying for taxis? And I'll kind of tie that into what it is I've already decided I wanted the trip to feel like.
Okay, so let me tap into something that you mentioned because I am an advocate about this on this podcast about so you have a full-time job and you travel a lot throughout the year because I know there's a lot of people that are like out there, quit your job, travel the world. Not everybody is able. And so that's one thing I like to promote in this podcast. You can travel the world and still have a full-time job. So how many trips a year do you generally take because you have a full-time job, correct? Can you speak on that?
I work for the state. I work for the state of New York, and I do not like my job. It ain't for me. It ain't where my spirit's at. It's not where any of my interests lie. However, as many of us come into adulthood, we realize them loans don't give a fuck.
Okay.
Neither does the rent. My dog happens to enjoy eating. I like food. So I just, I'm here. This isn't what my ultimate life goal is or where I intend to stay, but it's absolutely affording me the opportunity to do the things that I love. I love creating. I love podcasting. I love traveling. And I'm not in a space with my creative adventures yet, or my podcast yet, where I can afford to live my life without having a full-time job. So, I take, let's say before COVID, I was doing maybe like 6 trips a year. That's one thing about my job that will be difficult to walk away from, is not only the consistent pay cycle, like I don't show up for free, they do pay me to be there. So not only will I miss the consistent check, it's just like, well, I also get paid time off. So
Right.
I've got the luxury of having somebody basically pay me to have all this time to use. So I will take about, on a good year where, I don't have any restrictions or barriers or anything. And I also don't have any children. It's just me, my boyfriend, and the dog. And so I don't have to, worry about school schedules and childcare. My parents will take the dog whenever. So I do have to put that in there, that I can understand it being a little more difficult for someone that does have kids. But because I don't, my schedule is like, my time is mine, and I'm able to do with it, what I please. And I do have a really, really generous, I guess, time off rotation at my job. It's not always easy to get all of my time off, but because I do have the luxury of kind of going whenever and not really beholden to, all right, well, the kids are off from school this week, so this is the week that I have to take. And I've kind of got to manage my time around that. Because I don't have those restrictions, I'm able to pretty much just, what y'all got? I really don't care what you give me. Just, I want all my time.
So I do have a full-time job too. Not a lot of people know that because they see me traveling all the time. I have this podcast. I have a blog. I'm a travel agent. They don't see that, but I have a full-time job. And so I like to speak on that because so many people are out here promoting quit your job so you can travel the world full time. And I love that you can take 6 or 7 trips a year and you still have a full-time job, because, I would love to quit my full-time job and travel the world and be a digital nomad. But like my mom tells me, God gives you 5 senses, and he will tell you whether you can quit your job or not. You can
just gotta feel it out,
and you can still go to work.
Yes. And you have to just really understand like what's best for you. What type of stresses are you willing to deal with? Like if you're willing to deal with, or if you're ready to deal with, the whole, all right, I don't have, what the next check is. I'm not waiting now for a net 30, net 60, 90-day pay cycle. Cause there are a lot of things to, entrepreneurship they don't really talk about. Not your checks don't come every 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Depending on what your format, your decided format is, like how you decide to accept payment on whatever it is you get paid for. It may not look like a traditional pay cycle. So I'm not ready for those kinds of, variables. Like I need at this point for my check to be on rotation. I'm not there yet.
Exactly.
But that doesn't, understanding that though, doesn't, really take away per se from all that I am able. Well, I don't let it take away from all that I am able to do. I absolutely do my best to use the frustration of, damn, I hate this place, to be like, all right, so let me go home and work on this, or let me send this pitch, or let me follow up on this. Let me actually answer these emails and, do the work so that I don't have to continue with something I don't enjoy.
Right. I totally get it. And that's what I want a lot of the listeners to realize, that you can still keep your job and use that job to fuel your dreams of traveling. You don't have to walk away and sell everything you own just to travel the world. Stay there until you have an exit strategy to travel the world, but use those paychecks to travel the world. Use that vacation, something else I want to tap on that you said about, like you said, you have no kids, so
Mhm.
you can travel, and that. I'm going to tell you, I wrote a list of things that really touched me about your interview that you did on Black Women's Travel Podcast. But one of the things was, you being single with no kids and you're having friends with kids. That is
Mhm.
my whole life. I'm single. I have no kids. But no, you're in a relationship. You did mention that. But
Yes.
I'm single with no kids. All my friends are married with kids. So let's talk about how that impacted you with being very easy to travel, just pick up and go. Did you feel guilty about traveling the world with, being able to go and your friends, they couldn't just pick up and easily and go as you could?
Hell no.
Love
I don't know. Sure don't.
it.
That's the last thing I would even pretend to feel bad about. And honestly, the actual, like, the real friends I have, they be like, I'm living through you. Send me the pics. Let me know what happens that you can't post on social media. Like, shout out to my roll dogs, my diehards. Nobody's ever made me feel any kind of way about being able to travel. I ended up having, like, you know how you have like friends and then you have like friends. So you learn
Mhm.
kind of early that you can't, well, if you're paying attention, you learn it. You
Yeah.
can't do everything with every friend. Like, you have the friend that, I love her, she's mad fun, but she can't hold her liquor, so we're not going to bring her here. I love her. She, however, will not leave her shoes on at the club. We're not inviting her here. Like, you kind of get a feel for what friends you invite certain places.
Right.
And all of my friends were near and dear to me. And thankfully, I didn't necessarily, like, knowing that I could compartmentalize like who goes where, I believe made it a lot easier for me to not feel like I was leaving them behind. You know what I mean? Because I would never want
Mhm.
them to feel as if they're leaving me behind by like growing their families and getting married, buying houses, or, new cars, new careers. So it's kind of like, I root for them for all their wins. I support them through whatever stage of life that they're in, and they've done the same for me. Nobody's ever made me feel any kind of way about going. So I think that also made it a lot easier. Like, I never had anybody giving me the, oh, so you couldn't tell anybody. Everybody always just gives me, let me know when you go to the next one. And then the real ones always say, well, you can show up and you have someplace to stay. The ones
Right.
that don't live in New York. And also, shout out to Wanda, who's the host of the Black Women Travel Podcast. Thank you, sis, for having me on your show. So that's how you found me.
Right.
Yeah. So I didn't feel bad, still don't feel bad. And it just became, for me, it was being impatient. I just kind of got tired of waiting for when I felt like everything was going to be ready. Because you know how your family instills in you preparation, preparedness. We know we
Mhm.
have to be better than a lot of our peers to even get acknowledgement and recognition. So I understand that a lot of times my family doesn't give advice based on who I am. They give advice based on their experiences in life and wanting the best for me. And I got older. I traveled more. I had more life experiences to kind of help me understand that a lot of it's not personal. So people putting limitations and
Mhm.
restrictions, or even my own thought process of believing that I had to have X salary, I had to have X job, or I had to have X company come with me anywhere. As I started like experiencing more life, I realized I can do a lot of this by myself. Like, I don't need someone to go with me. Like, I had lived alone. I didn't leave the country till I was 30. Like, I didn't start traveling. Like, before I say traveling, like, I've traveled for a while. Like, I would go visit cousins and friends
Mhm.
and, people that live out of state. I'm in New York, so I would drive to Virginia. I would fly to Virginia. I would drive to North Carolina or fly to North Carolina. So I would go stay with friends and family and check in with people. Shout out to Angie. She let me stay at her house. Every year I went to Mardi Gras for like 4 years, 5 years. And so I would do stuff like that. But after a while, it was just like, all right, so I can get to all of these different states and be fine. I live by myself and I'm fine. I travel all through all of these boroughs by myself, except for Staten Island. We don't recognize Staten Island. I go through all of the actual boroughs in New York by myself and I'm fine. Why am I waiting for somebody to hold my hand to go across the sea? You know what I mean? It just, after a while, it stopped making sense and I stopped having reasons why I couldn't. So I went.
Okay, so do you think living by yourself, because that's a lot of questions I get when we start talking about solo travel, that people are like, how do I start? I'm afraid. Do you think living by yourself and, hanging out in your own state by yourself prepared you for solo travel? How did you get comfortable starting with solo travel?
I absolutely think that it helped. I vividly remember before I turned, what was it? Before my 25th birthday, I had a mini quarter life crisis. Like I was terrified. I'm like, I'm about to be 25. Nothing I said that I wanted to happen by 30 is even on the right path. This isn't in line. I don't have this. I don't have this. And the anxiety was ridiculous. And then what I did was about a month before my 25th birthday, every day of the month, I did something new. Something as simple as that. That was my gateway. I can look back and see that played a very large role on my ability to just kind of get out and do more by myself. Like I'd never gone to the mall by myself. Like I'd never eaten dinner by myself. I'd never baked a cake from scratch by myself. So I just did so many things that I hadn't done before. And those small little wins, all of those little successes, and it just was like, oh shit, kid, you were right. You're fine. And then I'd lived by myself I think I moved out, I want to say it was 2008. So what was I, 22? I think I was about 22, between 21 and 22 or 3. It was a year after college. I moved out and I'd been on my own. And so it really became one of those things all right, well, give it a try. I've always been a curious person. Mm-hmm. You got a hypothesis, guess and check. And that's absolutely what I did. And I did it scared. It's not that I wasn't scared. I did it anyway. And it's not that a lot of things, I think that part of that do something new every day was do it in the face of fear. Do things even if they make you uncomfortable or if they make you a little nervous. For the most part, none of it's going to fucking kill you. You know what I mean? Especially when I learned to name my fears. I remember I had probably the first experience or the closest thing to an anxiety attack. Oddly enough, the ones I remember are usually in airports. I do not enjoy the commute, if you will, of travel. I don't like crowds. I don't because people just do dumb stuff in crowds. I just really feel like crowds are where people go to get dumber. But that being said, I'll never forget, I was still very new to traveling. And where was I going? I think it was a layover in Casablanca. And then and then Barcelona was right after that, I want to say. I could be lying to you. I'm not certain. I remember the first stop was Casablanca. And I was in the airport, these big old Jackie O sunglasses on. And I'm breathing extra hard and I'm crying. And I'm watching the little tears. And I'm you don't let no strangers see you cry. You ain't no victim. Don't nobody come over here. Don't nobody ask me how I'm feeling. I'm fine. I'm good. I'm straight. And I'm just sitting here miserable. I'm terrified. And I called one of my homeboys. Shout out to him. He did a really good job of really being well, what are you afraid of? And he was no, what are you afraid of? You'll be fine. And he reassured me with a couple of things that I'd been able to do in regular life. And when I got off the phone, I really sat there and I was well, what am I afraid of? I really tried to put a name on it. I asked myself, are you afraid to go someplace because you don't know the language? And I'm no, because you walk into any number of bodegas or corner stores in here and you don't speak the language of a lot of people that are behind the counter. But guess what? You figure it the fuck out. through broken English. They don't speak complete English. I don't speak, I speak broken Spanish, and I don't speak with a lot of different people, whose stores I go into being in New York, and I'm fucking fine. I can walk through Flushing and figure out where I'm going if they don't have all the signs in English. I can be lost. I've been lost plenty of times. I have a terrible sense of direction. I've always managed to get myself back home. So I really kept going through the different things that I thought I could be afraid of. And I found so many examples of me being in a similar experience of fear and coming out of that, getting over it, getting through it, and actively being able to complete whatever it was that was attached to that fear. So when I realized I couldn't even put a name on it, when I couldn't find anything in particular that I was able to verbally say out loud to myself, if you will, that I was afraid of. And after going through a lot of the things that in the past I was afraid of, but I was able to do through the fear, it was just like, okay, so you're maybe putting more into this than needs to. Maybe you're just in a feeling, and the feeling is just that, a feeling. And maybe this feeling doesn't have to be a grandiose intuition about something going wrong or anything bigger than just you being afraid of something you've never done before. And after I kind of talked myself through that process, I was ready to get on the plane. So it was just like, you ain't spent all this money and not fucking go. You already went through security, just sitting here, and you absolutely want to go to Casablanca. Suck it up and go. And I got there, I was fine. Like, after I worked through all of that, I just really had to check in with myself. I had to talk to myself and figure out what was going on.
And that's the part that a lot of people on social media, and I try to tell people about solo travel, people are bragging and going through all of this about traveling solo, but they're not telling you the conversations you actually have to have with yourself to be able to work through a solo trip. So was it in that airport at that moment that you had to work through that to get on that plane? Did you ever have to go through those conversations with yourself again, or it stopped at that first trip? Is this an ongoing conversation you have to have with yourself for every solo trip?
No, and it wasn't even the first trip. The first trip I went to was an entire clusterfuck. I was booked to go to Martinique, and I had hair at the time. And shout out to the best friend, Courtney. He says she was braiding my hair because she was always my, hey, what you doing? Yeah, love you. Want to braid my hair tonight? Oh, I got the hair already. Come on. And so she was braiding my hair last minute. And I ended up getting a phone call, I don't know, like 4:00 in the morning. We had like 7 braids left. We was this close. And I get a phone call and I ignored it because I'm like, who's calling me at 4:00 in the morning? And I was like, no, really, wait, who's calling me at 4:00 in the morning? This is probably a thing. Sure enough, they canceled the flight to Martinique, and their contingency plan set me a day back. I was supposed to get on a bus out to Boston, and I'm like, I don't do buses. I'm not doing this. Thankfully, I had booked at the time through Expedia, so I was able to cancel everything kind of like in one step. They were very helpful at Expedia, and they did as best a job as they could. And the only money that I wasn't able to recoup was one night at the hotel that I was staying at in Martinique, because they were unable to get in contact with the hotel to try to, smooth that out for me. After that, I think I called my mom and was like, where should I go? I'm looking at Expedia again, and it was either Mexico or Bermuda. She said, well, I love Bermuda. I really think you'll like it. Go to Bermuda. I went to sleep, woke up, booked it, flew out the next day. So I don't know why. I also do pretty well in stressful situations. Not all of them, clearly, but in quite a few, I tend to respond well. So in that case, it was just, okay, so what am I doing to fix it? So that whole time, I didn't really have time to be afraid or scared that maybe this is a sign, maybe this is that. It's like, no, I had the vacation. I already had the time off. I'm not using my time. So fix it and go. So that first trip, I think there was just so much movement that I didn't really have the mental capacity to really be scared. And then also I realized I'm 3 hours away. If it really comes down to it, my mom could get to Bermuda. If it really comes down to it, I know at least they speak English here. I can communicate what all needs to, what I have that needs to be taken care of or whatever needs come up. And I think the trip where I was really scared that I had to do the whole mental gymnastics for was maybe the trip after that, or the third. It was maybe like the second or third trip that I had taken. But no, the one time was it.
Okay, so you didn't take that as a sign this is your very first solo trip. It was canceled. And you didn't take that as a sign that, okay, maybe I don't need to travel by myself. So you rebooked a different destination and continued on the next
Yep.
day.
My grandpa
I'm
always
blown
said, one
away.
monkey don't stop the show.
Yeah. So what do you think fueled you to like, you know what? I'm going to keep on going because it is your first trip, that first trip is, my first solo trip was kind of like a mental thing like, okay, am I going to make it? Am I going to make it 7 days by myself? But you didn't take that as a sign. You kept going like, I'm going to do this. What fueled you to do that?
All them bikinis I had packed. It was like, it was January. Was it January? I feel like it was, yeah. It was January 2017. And I had a bag full of shorts and tank tops, sundresses, and bikinis. And I was like, oh, we going someplace. We are absolutely pulling up to somebody's beach. And it was like, honestly, I feel like everybody goes to Bermuda. And I'm like, I'm not that far. If anything really goes wrong, I can fix it. Like this I can really work through. Being able to make such a pivot in that short amount of time, I think really just made me feel like, okay, this is cool. And I knew I was going to a country with a bunch of other Black folk. So I knew that I wouldn't stand out as long as I just played my role. You know what I mean? It's like as Black women, I feel that we, in a lot of situations, have, and I won't say everybody's experience. I can't speak to what everybody's experience, but I find in my experience of Black women that we're very, very in tune with being social comedians. We know how to code switch. We know how to really kind of, pick and choose what presentation may be appropriate during different times. And I pretty much just use that to my advantage in all of my travels. Honestly, that's one of the other questions people say about, being a solo travel. You don't have to stand out. A lot of it is in our own heads. You know what I mean? Because I know when I'm home, one of the funniest things people always say, try to keep your phone away. You do a little fanny pack that's under your clothes. And there's nothing wrong with being extra precautious. But I feel like sometimes things like that also make you stand out if you're not discreet about it. You got to be discreet about certain things, even in your own hometown. Like I'm from New York, so I'm used to being hyper aware of what's going on around me. Like it's a large city. I'm sure even in Nashville, you're not at the mall with your bag hanging off the cart because you realize that you're in a space with a lot of people around you. And when you're from areas that have a lot of people, and I think also if you have the experience that not everybody is comfortable with you in their space, you know how to kind of be in tune, or you may have the ability, even if you don't know that you have the ability, try to tap in and check into how may I be perceived while I'm in X amount of space. What am I going to do about that perception? Am I playing smaller? Am I playing bigger? Do I feel comfortable being myself? You have to kind of check in again with self and tap into what is going to make you comfortable. Are you going to feel more comfortable maybe presenting smaller? Are you going to feel more comfortable presenting authentically? That's everybody's own personal decision to kind of make. But I know that I'm a Leo. And I think people always like to think of, the charismatic fire sign of a Leo, but I don't know if it's just me. I'm certain I'm not the only one. And I don't know that this is, I can't tell you about everybody's zodiac sign, but everybody always thinks like I'm such an extrovert and that I love being the center of attention. And I'm the exact opposite. I am more so, I guess you could say an ambivert, because I have the capacity to do public speaking and to be in groups and to engage with groups of people, but that's not my joy. That's not where, excuse me, I get energy, or that's not where I find that I'm able to be as joyful, I guess is the right way. I'm more reserved in groups, unless of course, like I have to put on a show. Like if I'm presenting, if I'm speaking or doing, that's a different story. But I'm a people watcher. I like hanging out in the cut and just watching quietly. I don't like being necessarily seen and noticed in general. So for me, I'm playing to my own personality when I travel. When I'm in the more comfortable space, when I don't feel as new, I have no problem talking to the people on the tour bus. I have no problem talking to the person next to me at a restaurant kind of thing. But that's when I'm comfortable doing that. Other than that, I think I'm very well equipped to do solo travel because I do a lot of stuff by myself and I enjoy doing things by myself. So I think that just who I am just kind of works well with, trying to adapt and navigate different areas.
How did you get comfortable enjoying your own company so that you are able to travel by yourself?
That was absolutely living alone. Like it's been just me for so long. That's why my partner is quite a welcome joy in my life. He is quite the gem. But before that, it was just me and the dog. And I also, so it's a funny existence. Being a solo child with a sibling, an only child with a sibling is how I often look at myself sometimes. My brother and I are 5 years apart, and he's 5 years younger. And it doesn't really seem like much. And for other people and their experiences of their siblings, I can't speak to, but mine as a kid, well, I still can be quite controlling. Not even gonna hold you on that one. I enjoy a certain order to some things. So as a kid, it was just like, all right, so you don't even play the game the right way. Like if we're playing school, you raise your hand. You know how I know? Because I go to school. You don't. You have to follow the rules. So for me, it was just like, I'm going to play by myself. So for a long time, it's just like I've done so much by myself. We didn't get close until I was much older. And it just also turned into, now that I lived alone, it was just like, okay, so these groceries ain't going to buy themselves. This is before Fresh Direct and Hello Fresh and, all of the avenues that I currently use for getting groceries.
Right.
But I just had to do so much by myself. And after just getting used to that, it was just like, I'm actually pretty good company. I enjoy my own time. I enjoy the space that I'm in by myself. I like who I am. So I really use that to kind of silence the, oh, well, this person needs to come, or I should look into inviting that one. And also, again, I am a little bit more aware now that I'm older with what works best for me and what certain triggers to stress are. I know that because of my indecisiveness, it's a lot easier for me to not have to include other people in decisions. I know that I'm also a very much so last minute person. I know and fully believe and understand that my urgency does not beget somebody else's urgency. Because something is important to me doesn't mean it's important to anybody else. So I'm only going to stress myself out even further trying to get somebody else to, all right, decide what you want to do because we have until like an hour from now to book X, Y, and Z. That's not fair to somebody else. So it was just like, okay, so do I want to deal with the stress of meeting up with this person, emailing this person, being on the phone with this person to decide on group trips, excursions, and all that other kind of jazz? Or do I want to just figure it out on my own, how I want to figure it out, when I want to figure it out, and through what medium I want to figure it out? For me, it just became a stress management tool. It was just like, well, I don't want to have these conversations with anybody else, or I don't want to figure it out in advance so that I can discuss it with somebody else. It just became, this is easier for me because of what brings me less stress. Sometimes making a decision at the last minute makes making the decision easier for me, because at that point, it just becomes choose go, as opposed to me, here's the cost benefit, here's the cost analysis. I've done my charts. I've decided on this. If I go here, then I have this option. Including somebody else in that doesn't work for me a lot. And so I've just kind of learned to keep it simple, stupid. And what's simple for me is figuring it out by myself in a lot of different situations.
So, do you travel with your friends, or every trip you're just like, I'm not telling anybody, I'm just going for it and they'll find out later? Or do you even put it out there? What makes you decide to put it out there or not put it out there to your friends?
I really don't. Um, because again, I don't want to coordinate schedules.
Yeah.
I don't want to coordinate wants. I know that I am willing to wake up at midnight for a 2 a.m. hike in the dark in Bali for a for a sunrise on an active volcano. That matters to me. So I'm
Yeah.
going to do that. But do I want to explain and really talk somebody else into waking up at midnight so we could be picked up at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning? No. Yeah, I don't want to do that. I also don't want to try to convince somebody not to sleep in or to sleep in. I don't want those problems. You know what I mean? I've only
Yes.
done 2 international trips with other people. I went to St. Martin with my mom, and I did Alberta, British Columbia with one of my really, really close friends. And while we had incredible times, love them both dearly, there were different points in each of those trips where I was like, see, this is why I do shit myself. I love you, but I don't like you right now. And I don't want to have to go through this with 1,
Yes.
2, 12, any number of people. So thankfully, my partner now, my boyfriend, is just like, we can, when you're fucking somebody, it's a lot easier to have these conversations.
Yes.
Honestly, I am gonna hold you. It's just so much easier to, well, I don't want to do this. Now picture changing my mind. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. Whereas it's like, this is my mama. If she's
Right.
saying we're sleeping in, I guess we're sleeping in. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. So I've, I always, one of the pet peeve of mine is when I post about a trip and somebody's like, oh my God, I'm going on the next one. Tell me when the next one is. It's like, so girlfriend, when the last time you see me travel with somebody?
Okay.
Read
Oh
the
my
room.
God.
I
Oh my
love you.
God.
Promise I do. But it's kind of like, I'm not going to invite you to go grocery shopping. You know what I mean? Like some
Yeah.
things you do by yourself.
You
So yeah,
are
I don't announce.
preaching. Yes, that is my pet peeve too, because I'm like, oh my God. I'd love to travel. I do enjoy, and I would like to travel with my friends, but I'm just like you. I'm just like, I just want to get up and go. I don't want to coordinate with you all because,
Mm-hmm.
like I mentioned, I'm single. I have no kids. So, with your friends, you got to coordinate everything. And if I say I want to go, I want to go. I don't want to.
Yes.
I don't want to coordinate. Oh no, we can't leave on this day because I got this, this, and this. I
That
don't
part,
want to do
I
that.
hate that.
I hate
Some
that.
people want to cut the wire. Like, well, we'll get home at, Sunday at like 11
Yeah.
o'clock. And so I don't know about you, but I work Monday.
Yeah.
I don't want to work like that. I don't want to work smelling like a plane. You know what I mean? I would
Right.
like to shower and sleep that smell off. I want to, I want to breathe a little bit of New York air before I throw myself into the fire. Like, I don't, and some people are like, push it to the limit. I do not enjoy that at all. And then you have to deal with a bunch of different personalities once you get
Mhm.
there. You don't do water. You don't want to mess your hair up. You want to coordinate outfits everywhere, or you
Yes.
don't eat this. And it's just, I am all for a group trip with the right group.
Right.
I do not have that group yet. So I will say to people, bless y'all, that love a good group trip, enjoy.
Enjoy. Right.
But that's not me. That's not me. But
Yeah.
I'm also a very curious person. So I want to try a group trip for shits and giggles. Like I want to see,
Mhm.
because I also do not necessarily, I do not full-heartedly believe in saying you don't like something if you've never done it before.
Right.
I have traveled with one person before, and I don't like traveling with someone I'm not sleeping with.
Mhm.
So there's that on that. However, we haven't taken like a group couples trip. So I'll try that and see maybe if I like that. You know what I mean? I'll check in at a certain point and everybody go do their own thing. Or we'll all have the same, floor at the resort, or we'll all rent the same house together. We'll join up for meals or something. I don't know. That's something I'm willing to give a shot. However,
Love it.
yeah, y'all see when I get back, or I'll let you know I'm there.
Yeah,
I'll text you from there.
I heard
I'll
that,
FaceTime
girl.
your babies so they can see different places in the world. I do like doing that. I like FaceTiming my goddaughter so that she could see what, different streets and different areas of the
Right.
world look like before she gets the chance to get out there.
So let's talk about, you're in this relationship now. So are you all traveling together? How is he traveling?
We are. However, we haven't really been 100% comfortable with plane travel yet. So
Okay.
everywhere we've been going has been road trips.
Okay.
Um, we did, and we're also like a pandemic relationship. So we started dating in the beginning of pandemic. So it's been like all of our options have been limited until relatively recently with the world basically opening back up again. So he's absolutely down for the road trips with me. Best road trip partner. We have a lot of the same sensibilities. We have a lot of the same things that we're into. And we, like we live together. So it's just kind of like everything just works. Like it's easier to communicate certain needs when you know that you can be very fully open and authentic with somebody. And because we have that in our relationship, it absolutely extends to our travels. I know the kind of stuff that he's into and he knows what I'm into. And he's pretty easy. He's as easygoing as I am. So there's no real, you know, I don't do these kinds of restaurants. Or I won't wake up early. We figure it out. Honestly, we do.
So when you were starting a relationship, do you because you are an avid traveler, did you go into like the beginning of the relationship like, okay, I need to know his travel preferences before like me, like now I'm single. So when I travel a lot. And if I'm looking for, when I'm looking for somebody, the first thing I ask, do you have a passport or do you have the ability to get a passport? Because I'm not trying to hook up with no other guys who can't get no passport. So did you go through all of that in the beginning?
Yes. So I've had relationships not work because
Yeah.
of our disconnect and travel. I'll say I remember this one dude, compatible in a lot of different ways. And he straight out told me, yo, I'm never traveling with you. It's an absolute waste of money. I'd rather save my money. And I'm like, save your money to do what?
Right.
And he was just like, for my future, generational wealth. And I'm just like, so what you gonna talk about with your kids? Like, you ain't gonna talk about life experiences. You're not gonna talk about, experimentation, culture, like the joys and the beauty that are around the world. Like they got to read in a book. And I'm just like, that don't make you a bad person. It just makes you a bad person for me because I don't necessarily, I will not say I like being broke. Like I will joke sometimes with like people at my job and they'll offer like, oh, do you want to do this overtime? Sure don't. I am A-okay being a peasant. This check is good enough. I am A-okay where I'm at. Keep your money and your overtime. Just run me this base pay. I'm okay. But it's not a waste of money to me. Anything that I
Mm-hmm.
am putting into myself, any investment in myself is never a bad dollar spent. And I know how much travel means to me, and I know how important it is to me, and I know how it makes me feel. So that's absolutely something I'm not willing to, go without. I I don't like I always ask. Well, I did always ask when I was talking to someone or when I was dating somebody. And then when I was on the site, like the dating sites and stuff, a lot of my pictures had a lot of different scenery. They were all travel pictures. So I didn't really put in the profile like, I need a man that travels or, oh, I need this. I didn't really expressly what's the word I'm looking for? Advertise that that's what I was looking for, but it absolutely came up in all the regular conversations. It's, you do one of those things like they'll ask, oh, where's that picture? Oh, I like the pink swimsuit. Where was that? I'm like, oh, that one was in Bali. I enjoyed that trip because where was the last place you went? Or when was the last book you really got into? Yeah, the little bullshit questions y'all ask about like colors and what kind of foods
Yeah.
can't you eat and all the hoopla. I don't miss it. God, I hated dating. It was so terrible. It was so ghetto.
Oh my
Don't
God,
like
I
it.
hate it. I know.
But
I
yeah,
hate being out here in this space.
don't miss it. I'm sorry, sis.
Oh,
I
I
need your luck.
understand. I understand. I need the luck. Thank you. So you talked about, how travel makes you feel. How does travel make you feel? Tap into that.
Oh, it absolutely makes me feel like wow, I didn't really, thank you for asking that. That's a good question. And as soon as I thought about it, because I can't really say for some odd reason if I've ever considered how it makes me feel, but it makes me feel like the little scientist I wanted to be when I was a kid. It makes me feel like the little, spy, the little magician that I wanted to be. All of the things that I like was into as a kid, I was always in a book. My head was always in
Mm.
a book or a science kit or a detective kit or a magic kit or a microscope or a telescope. I've always been curious, always been curious. I always wanted to know stuff. And when I travel, it makes me feel like all of those things because you have to figure things out. I get to be a little detective when I'm abroad and I have no fucking clue where I am. I get to be an astronomer when I can actually see the stars in the sky because there's no light pollution or general pollution in general. So I can actually see the stars at night as opposed to in New York where you get a couple of them here and there, but not nearly as many when I was a kid and not nearly as many as you can see in so many other places of the world. And it really makes me feel like all of the little curiosities and all of the little, it gives me like infinite possibilities. It absolutely makes me feel like I can be all of the exploratory, creative, inquisitive things that I was as a kid. It really makes me feel as if my possibilities are endless.
And so it has truly changed you as a person.
Absolutely. It gave me the opportunity to um, learn to begin because I'm not always good at it, but it really helped me give myself more grace in a lot of situations. Only, if not only for the way people have helped me while I've been traveling. And it also helped me be more patient. It absolutely helped me be more patient. So I guess the best way to put it is I've learned a lot of patience through travel, whether it be patience with myself or patience with other people. And it's specifically because of the patience and the grace that people have showed me all around the world in my travels. Simple as I don't have Wi-Fi. Google Translate is really being a useless app right now, or I am completely lost. Just smile and ask somebody for help. And the way that people have like gone out of their way to make sure that I was okay, a random stranger that they haven't had
Mm.
4 minutes with, people have, walked around helping me find directions. People have jumped over actual like boundaries to check and see, is this who she needs? Is this the group that she's looking for? It really just showed me like people can be good. I mean, we all know that people can do terrible things, but people can absolutely do really incredible things. And I truly think, hopefully not to my detriment at any point, that the world is inherently good. Even bad people can do good things. It's the same way good people can do bad things. I really think that a lot of it has absolutely nothing to do with you, especially when somebody's in a bad fucking mood. That's on you. Your mood doesn't have to be my mood. I also don't have to internalize your bad mood. I can recognize that you may be in a bad mood or in a space that you're unable to communicate with me clearly, or you're unable to, assist or help me with what's going on. And that doesn't mean that I'm not worthy of assistance. That doesn't mean that I'm not worthy of someone caring to communicate clearly. It just means that this person doesn't have the capacity right now, whether it be because of how they perceive me or how they perceive me to perceive them. But honestly, neither of those things has anything to do with me. And I've been able to see that by just seeing more people that aren't like me. I've been able to experience that by putting myself in new experiences that I wouldn't have the opportunity to get while I'm home. In, as big as the city is, I feel like even there's a difference between Bronx, there's a difference between Brooklyn, Queens, all of it. And it's kind of like just going into an even bigger borough is the rest of the world.
So you're saying that because of your travels and you're needing assistance in other countries and you're needing people to show you kindness in other countries, it's allowed you to take that kindness and apply it to your everyday life within your home. Like, you know what? I can show someone else grace. I can, someone else, may need assistance or may need help. And you're looking at it at a different lens because your travel has changed you on the way you view other people.
Absolutely. Even something as simple as at work, I do a lot of my work with the public. And if somebody comes and they don't speak English, I have seen other people in the building be like, oh, I only speak English. I can't help you. Okay, but you're walking around with your phone in your pocket. I know what it's like to go someplace and have a pretty simple ask and really feel like I'm doing my best to communicate what it is I need, but I don't know all the words. I can only use these 6 that I have and kind of body language. So I take out my phone and I get right on Google Translate. That's it. I'm going to say, what is it that you need? And then play it in whatever language they speak. Because I've had people stop, even though they knew they weren't going to understand what I was saying, and at least give me the time for me to try to pretend to say it in either their language or to say into the app, hey, I am looking for, Calle, Mexico, whatever. And let it translate it. And then, oh, so I can say it in whatever language I'm speaking. Cool. And then they help me out. That easy. I got my answer and now I'm out of your way. I don't think that I am better or less than anybody. And I don't think anybody is better or less than me. And I absolutely try to extend the same graces that have been extended to me just off the strength of we all just want some help sometimes. Everybody's questions aren't hard if you ask the right person. Well, actually, you can learn something from anyone if you ask the right questions. And a lot of times you ignore the question because you think the person asking it may not, be worthy of your answer. And then sometimes you don't answer because you feel like your answer may not be good enough for that person. A lot of times just split the difference. I'm gonna give you what I got. You either like it, you don't. It's either useful or it's not. That ain't on me. That's on you. I answered.
I love that. I love that because that is really true what you said. Sometimes you feel like I'm just not going to answer. I'm not going to help this person because I feel like they're not worthy of, my help or my answer. And you just got to humble yourself. And I think travel teaches you that. And I know a lot of people are talking about now traveling with purpose. I will admit, years ago, I'm traveling to turn up and having a good time. I want to travel. I want to turn up internationally, But I think, like after I went through a divorce and, I started traveling to heal myself, to escape my reality. And then it dawned on me, I guess I am traveling for a purpose. And that, that's when I gained my confidence. I started learning about myself and start humbling myself a little bit. And I think that's, what travel teaches you. It just changes who you are as a person and teaches you a lot about yourself. Do you feel like you've learned a lot about yourself through travel?
Absolutely. Because I've absolutely had the opportunity to be in situations that I have grown from that I wouldn't be able to be in had I been home.
Yeah.
I've been able to face an entirely new host of fears that I wouldn't necessarily have had the opportunity to encounter if I stayed here in Queens. Like it's just, there are so many more options, if you will. It's kind of like, I like to use kind of like a decorating analogy. If you're not familiar with, French contemporary art, how do you know whether or not it's going to complement something in your home? You don't know what is always going to be a good fit or a good match if you don't have exposure to it. Like if you don't have experience with it, if you don't know it's there, you don't know what you don't know, right? So I feel like there are so many different aspects and points and areas and corners and lights and shadows and hues to who I am as a person that I'm never going to know exist if I'm not in situations that elicit those feelings, those beliefs, those experiences, those fears, all of it. So I've been able to really just pay attention while even if I'm doing something as innocuous as like cooking. I hate cooking. I don't find any joy in cooking. But I found the last international trip I took was to Guadeloupe last January. It was January 2020. And the area that I was staying in, their kitchens were all outdoors. It was incredible. There's like this really nice glass sliding door, and you open that up. You could leave it open all day. They had cats in the complex. So I actually cat sat to cats on vacation. I don't like cats, but I mean, they was all right. We got along. But that being said, it was just like, okay, I'm dealing with something I don't like. I deal with stuff I don't like all the time while I'm home. Let's see if I can make it through this, or let's see if this adds a really fun kind of aspect. It's a fun story to tell. Like they were neighborhood cats. The cats were literally for the streets. Like the cats would go across all the balconies to everybody's house. So even though I don't like them, we're going to cohabitate. You know what I mean? Like, let's see how this works. And you figure out ways to cook the foods that are, what's the word I'm looking for? Not natural, but present in the local area. Mm-hmm. I remember I ended up having to use the help of people that were from there, connect with people, ask questions. People are really a lot nicer than many of us would give them, the opportunity to be. And I found myself cooking. I ended up, really not getting into it and liking it, but I learned more about, okay, I'm full. It's another reminder, if you let it be, that you are capable of doing things you don't like. A lot of self-care isn't fun. Therapy ain't always fun, Sitting and peeling the nail polish off, sitting and soaking nail polish off ain't fun. But guess what? It's got to get done. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like little things like that, you got to get done. And I've had to get stuff done on vacation because, especially as a solo traveler, who gonna do it for you? Are you going to rely on like a stranger, or are you going to try to call somebody from home to figure it out? No, you do it. You figure it out. And I've had to figure out a lot of shit while abroad, and I've just gotten stronger and stronger for it.
So do you consider, speaking on that, do you consider like it, if you had to figure stuff out or nothing went the right way that you planned to be, do you consider that a bad trip or a learning lesson in figuring out? Because a lot of people feel like, okay, they have the expectation that when I go on this vacation, I go on this trip, it has to be on point 24/7. But as people like us that we travel a lot, we understand things don't always go according to plan, and we don't let that ruin our whole trip. So do you consider having a bad trip, or okay, this is just a learning lesson and I'm going to make the best of it?
I would say I haven't had any bad trips.
Okay, I agree with that.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think. There's been plenty of stuff that goes. It's kind of like in regular life, right? I like to remind myself, a bad day, a bad life does not make. I can have a bad day without saying that I have a terrible life. Like I can have a bad morning without saying that today's a bad day. You know what I mean? Like things can go wrong without me saying I can fuck up and not hate myself. And so I like to extend that same courtesy to my trips, right? The same way things go wrong, things go awry when I'm home, I expect that just because this isn't my home doesn't mean it's not somebody's home. Shit could still go wrong. Like humans are going to human. People will always people, and they will never let you down when it comes to people, and whether it be a good people or a bad people. Things are always going to, I believe in an intentional universe also. So I feel a lot of times that, if something doesn't happen as planned, or if something doesn't go according to the way that I anticipated or expected it to go, it's just an opportunity for something even better to happen. A lot of times an opportunity lost doesn't have to be, the end all be all, the trip is over, I'm going home, pack me up, it's a dub. Like, okay, so you couldn't go to the beach today. What you doing now? Are you still surrounded by a beautiful city? Go explore the city. And then you end up falling into like, the food here was wild good. And I had such a good conversation with X person or whatever. That's maybe what you needed in that moment. It could be that, whatever's on that beach, wasn't going to be good for you. That could have been the day I got eaten by a shark. I don't fucking know. But you know what? Thankfully, I won't find out because I wasn't on the beach. You know what I mean? It's just like, I
Right.
really like looking at things with the glass half full, if I can, because sulking about it isn't going to fix the problem. Sulking about it or being in my bag about it is not going to, maintain a successful trip for the rest of the time that I'm here. I also like to remind myself that I paid for this. Like, I'm
Right.
not here for free. Like, I spent money on getting here. I spent money for accommodations. I am using time from work, which is very important to me. And I don't want to dwell on, what didn't work, what's not going well, because what is that getting me? I could just pivot. And I think it could be maybe because that first trip went so left. I'm at this point, I feel like that was like the start of my traveling. Shit went wrong. I have a terrible sense of direction. Whenever I would drive, like, say the drive is supposed to be 6 hours. This is back when you had to still print your directions before
Yeah.
cell phones did everything for you. I will never
Right.
forget the time it took me 9 hours to make a 6 hour drive
Oh my
because I
God.
kept
I've
getting
been
lost.
there.
And it was just like, okay, what are you going to do? Pull over and cry? Then guess what? Get back on the road. Go right back to MapQuest. You look at your little printout, page through, figure out where you
Yes.
at. Or you go into the Wawa or whatever's around and you ask for help. And so it's like always being lost prepared me for just being lost in regular life. Like, being lost in Manhattan is the same as being lost in Qatar.
Yeah.
Figure
So
it
you're,
out.
yeah, you're not taking it too seriously.
Nope.
Okay. So is this what you kind of teach? Tell us a little bit about do you have, like, I think, the mindful travel course or something like that?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, that is a labor of love. So it took a couple of months to put together, but I was very intentional about connecting with Black women in wellness to help participants in the course really find different ways to connect with themselves while they're traveling. So, like I was saying before, like, you don't know what you don't know. A lot of times, if you don't have experience with something, or if you don't have a point of reference for something, you may just assume, oh, well, that's not for me, that's not going to work, or you don't even consider that maybe I'll like this. So what I did was I had a couple of women have multiple modalities that they do in their practices, but I designed the course to be broken into 7 days. And it includes meditation, it includes yoga, it includes food, it includes sound healing, like a heart check-in, Reiki work. And it's just a litany of really easy and short little toe taps into the water of these different modalities to really help you ground yourself while you're traveling. It doesn't have to be deep. And I think that sometimes if you're not familiar with mindfulness and being intentional, you think that it has to be like an hour long, yoga session, or it has to be like an hour long meditation session. No, you can be intentional about your food choices and making sure that you are actively thinking about, what does my body need right now? What is going to put me at ease? What is going to help me navigate the rest of this week? Making sure I drink more water. I'm in a country where the tap water isn't safe to drink. So I am mindfully making sure that I check in with whatever stores are around me to buy bottled water, or to ask my host, is this water that I can filter safely? Do you have a Brita, or do you have water filtration at the home? And I know I had a Sharita, she's a registered dietitian. She ended up giving a lot of really good food choices for common travel ailments, whether it be upset stomach, diarrhea, fatigue. She really did a great job with that. I had a friend of mine. I used to dance for a really long time. Like, I think I danced for maybe 20 years. And Lisa and I used to work together. She now has a yoga, not studio, because she's very much so virtual, and she does in-person classes. But Lisa has a beautiful yoga practice with I Am Yogi Studios, and just spending 10 minutes, 5 minutes to check in with some stretches. I can move my body. I have control of my body. My body is mine to move and to appreciate the way I want to appreciate it. It doesn't have to be an hour-long yoga session. It doesn't have to be, 30 minutes of cardio. Move your body intentionally to thank your body before you start your day, to end your day. They're all 5-minute practices in different modalities to help you really take a beat and check in with yourself and see what is it that I need right in this space. Because the me right now is going to get me to the me of the future. The me of my past got me here, and I need to work through whatever needs to be worked through so that I could be a happy me now and a happy me going forward. And the only thing that's going to continue with you throughout your life is always going to be you. It'll be your connections to your friends. It'll be your connections to your family, to your work, to your emotions, to the people in the world and the community outside of you. But you always come with you. You are always yours. And the Mindful Traveler course is it's a free course. You basically sign up. Email is sent to you every day. And each day we choose a different modality because not everything works for everybody. What if you're not able-bodied? If you can't move your legs, or if you can't move comfortably or safely, then there's maybe a different way for you to check in with yourself. Maybe mindfulness and meditation is better suited for you. I've got Rochelle. She is she has actually a lot of different credentials to her name, but she's got a practice upstate New York, Rooted Healing. She's guiding in her mode of the course, a guided meditation. And she is walking you through checking in with yourself for the day. Where is your heart? Where are your thoughts? What is it that you need to focus on to get the most out of today? Because some days, you don't need to think about nothing. You need to go out and just not think about anything. And some days you realize, you know what? Maybe there is something on my heart that I want to kind of sift through. Maybe just ask myself how I feel about my job. When was the last time you asked yourself how you feel about your work? Like, when is the last time you realized, you know what, maybe I need to really put in for that raise or that promotion, or I need to just worry about transferring departments. Sometimes it doesn't have to be as big as that. It could be, let me find out if there's a parking spot available for my building. Because you know what? My knees do hurt now that I'm not walking 7 blocks to my building. Little things like that. And the course has been designed so that you spend just enough time each day checking in with what you need so that you can be a better version of yourself when you leave and you get home and you're ready to tackle the rest of your life, the regular life, like the being back home after travel with a new, fresh, and really rested and intentionally thought on peace of mind.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. Like, so these daily things that you're doing helps you. So, like, when you travel, when you come back, you are up and running, ready to go. Is that what I'm hearing you say correctly?
Yes, it is a practice of self-investment. You are every day choosing a different modality to check in with yourself. You are checking with yourself in different ways, whether it be yoga, whether it be guided breath work, whether it be a meditation, whether it be food choices, whether it be a heart-centered check-in with, like, who has hurt you recently? When was the last time you hurt yourself? What are practices that aren't serving you anymore? Each day, 5 minutes. Like, I set it up with I love quotes. I used to have a quote wall at one of my jobs. I was that girl. And I mean, it was extensive, but I love a good quote. And I don't know why it's on my spirit to share this one. I was on the Instagrams, love-hate relationship with Instagram, but I want to say it's Maya Eloise. Maddie James is one of my favorite Instagrammers, and I don't know if I can't spell? I can't spell for shit. I think it's MayaELIOUSE. However you spell Louise. It ain't my name, so it ain't exactly something I need to know how to spell, right? But long and short, one of the most impactful quotes that I recently heard was, I can do hard things. And that really got me through a hell of a day.
Yeah.
I had a really shit day last week, and I kept going back to that quote. And it's little things like that.
Right.
A good quote. You know what I mean? So each day, the emails start out with a quote. I have a grounding message. This is what we're doing today. This is how, little anecdote maybe. And then here's the welcome to what today is, 5 minutes. It also comes with a Mindful Traveler worksheet, where each worksheet is designed to be as deep or not deep. You can print it. You can, just read it over or use it as a journal prompt, because I also like to journal when I travel. You can use the worksheet to journal prompt, to just reflect. If you want to go any deeper, if you want to check back in with yourself through the middle of the day, I have a couple of little, prompts on the worksheets that are included. And then you move on with your day. You spend as much time with it. You spend as much effort with it. You be as deep as you want, or you be as not deep as you want with it. Because some things you really do got to get deep with, right? If you give yourself the opportunity, you can absolutely grow from it. And then other things, you don't. Some things you don't even need right now. Every once in a while, I'll go through something, or I'll go through a note. I have a million notebooks around here. I have notebooks everywhere, ideas and, thoughts and journals and all of it. And every once in a while, you pop one open, you're like, damn, I never followed up on this one, because I wasn't ready at that time.
Right.
But now I am. So now I can go back. I'm a big fan of Post-it notes. I got a million Post-it notes on my desk, because not everything is useful right now. But I know if I take a note, the information is there when I'm ready. So you may not really be in the space to say, go deep with, when was the last time I hurt myself? When was the last time I used hurtful language in, a conversation with who I was as a person? You may not be ready for that in Bali. You may not be ready for that in, Haiti or Turks and Caicos. You want to be out in the sand with somebody's son. You know what I'm saying? So maybe right now ain't it. But sis, you might want to stretch out in the morning to be prepared for your evening activities. Okay. I'm just saying. So maybe you want to do a little bit of yoga. So there are different ways, and there are different times for everything. But the beautiful thing about the course is once you sign up for it, it gets sent to your email box. You open them bad boys up when you're ready.
Love it. How can people sign up for it? How can people sign up for it?
travelandshitpodcast.com. TRAVEL, the letter N, SHIT podcast.com, and go to the travel resources tab. I've got a list of that course. I have a solo travel planning course. I have a workbook bundle that is actually sold in tandem to the course, because all the courses are both free. The solo travel planning course and the mindful traveler course, they're both free. But there is a bundle where I have a bunch of worksheets, PDFs, lists, and printable pages that actually give you the tangibles of what I use. Like, I explain what it is to do for free, but then like I hold your hand with how I do it and the different resources and so much more detail. And that's I think I have it at $9.99. So that's all available at travel, the letter N, shitpodcast.com. And you can go to the travel resources tab where I've got, all that information listed there. Because I understand sometimes podcasts are great for entertainment and information, but if you're not able to take notes or to write something down, sometimes you just need something in paper. I am a very hands-on person. If I can do it, I can learn it. So a lot of times I just need to see things in front of me. I want to take notes. I want to organize it. I want to pull out what works, what doesn't work, highlight, pin it, all of that shit. So a lot of times I'm saying all of these things in my podcast. I'm telling you, check in with yourself. I'm telling you, sound healing has been, incredible for so many people. But a lot of times it's like, okay, well, I heard her say it, but I don't remember what episode it was. And I don't want to listen to this shit all over again because it's an hour long and sis was going on. So it's on a printout.
Right.
It's on the tab. It's right here written down for anybody that actually learns differently than just auditory.
I love that. I'm a paper person. And for all the listeners out there, you know my style. I'm going to put everything, the links to everything in the show notes on ericajamestravel.com. So you can, download, sign up for the course, everything. So you mentioned Travel and Shit podcast. Tell us about your podcast. What is the Travel and Shit podcast about?
Travel and Shit podcast is my baby. That's my joint. It's my jam. It's my happy place. Um, if you haven't noticed, I can talk. I talk a lot. I was one of them kids that never shut the fuck up. Ma, I love you, girl. I'm so sorry. Actually, no, I'm not. I just love you. And thank you for listening to all of my stories. I always told stories,
Yeah.
and I just, always enjoyed it. And I got older and I realized, you know what? I know how important it is to me to see and hear people that look and sound like me, people that I feel like have similar sensibilities and beliefs. And I know how resistant I was to travel for so long, thinking that I didn't deserve, or I wasn't capable of, or I just didn't have the luxury that other people have. And then I realized, oh, so I was making this more deep than it actually was. I was telling myself no before the universe was telling me yes. I didn't know travel could be so cheap.
Right.
I didn't know there were so many travel options. I always thought that because before, Instagram really was out here showing us the girls getting life, I was thinking that you either could backpack or you had to do luxury Bora Bora, Maldives kind of trips. I'm like,
right.
Well, I ain't got Paris money. But then I actually looked up how much a flight to Paris is. I'm like, oh, bitch, I could get there for like $500. Okay, I hear you. So check this credit card out. I got $250 on the next check, and I'm gonna get $250, maybe 2 checks later, and I'll pay it back off. But then it was just like, all right, so I'm gonna be paying bills for the remainder of my life, the whole black ass life of it. So I felt like after a while, I'd rather just pay a bill that I can look back on and be like, okay, that was fun though. That was a good time.
Yeah.
So I literally just run my mouth about the incredible ways that I have found that travel intersects with regular life. There's so much that I've been able to grow from, and it has really colored my lens of the way I see so many other things in the world. And I really think that travel dabs its little toe into so many different areas. Yes. There are so many different things that you can experience because keep in mind, my regular life is somebody else's travel life, right? Look how many people come to the city. Look how many people come to New York. I live through this shit all the time. So it's just like, I understand your excitement. It's really trash. The subway smells. The people are annoying, but I get this is exciting for you. Exactly. The same way, oh my God, Big Ben, it's under construction. I'm gonna get a picture though. People like, it's been there all the time. So it's just like, you know what? My story gets to matter. Why not share what my story is for the next little brown girl that thinks that maybe she can't go because she hasn't seen somebody that looks like her, or somebody that looks or sounds like her actually doing it. You don't have, there's nothing special about me. I'm just special because I'm me, and everybody else gets to be special because they're them. And that's all it is.
I love it.
You are the juice. You the cheat code. You know what I mean? You want to know why? Because I'm out here doing it. You could do it. It's everybody. That's so cliche to say. If I could do it, you could do it. But a lot of times, if the person that's saying I did it, you can, doesn't sound like you, look like you, or you think move like you think that that's not you.
Right.
You just gonna look at them and say, oh, but you that person. But if you can see yourself in me, if you can see yourself in somebody else, I've found that in my experience, I'm more willing to listen to that person and what it is they, have to bring to the table about a certain topic. And I really want everybody to get these gems. Like, we all get to travel. We all get to, experience this like level of joy that it has for me. Like, everybody gets to do this shit. If, backpacking is your thing, have at it. I have a homegirl, Black Girl World Traveler. That's her name is Shira. She's got an incredible backpacking platform. She's more of a backpacker. So if you want to backpack, That's one resource you can hit up. If you want to do luxury, I'm certain there are plenty of Black ass women out here living this luxurious life.
Right.
I ain't got the luxury coins yet. That ain't my ministry just yet. I'm getting there.
I love
but
that.
Find somebody that looks, sounds, and resonates with you so that you can get as much like, oh, okay, what? Okay, let me try this. Or, oh, so this happens there? Mental noting for something that I should look into. And that's basically what Travel N Shit is about. It's travel and all the shit that comes with it.
I love it. You have wrapped that up and you have said a word right there. I love that. So where can people find you? I know we talked about your mindful travel course. We talked about your Travel N Shit podcast. And I'm going to drop all of that in the show notes. But where can people follow you and your travels? Where can they get in touch with you?
So my Instagram is the same as the website. It's Travel N Shit, but there is an underscore where the I is on Instagram. So it's TRAVEL, the letter N, SH_T on the Instagrams. But everything is always linked on my website, which is travelandshitpodcast.com. You can find the Instagram, the Twitter, the Facebook. I mean, at some point I might have a Pinterest. I don't know. I'm gonna get there. Like, you know, I'm working on making sure that we out here. You know what I mean? Like, Southside, we outside. Everybody on the block get off the block. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much to see. And travelandshitpodcast.com is where I put what it is I have to show and be seen on the internet.
All right. Well, we're going to make it easy for all of the listeners out here because everything, every link, everything we've talked about is going to be in the show notes so you can get in touch and follow and Travel N Shit. You know what I'm saying? Yes. Okay, with dCarrie, thank you so much for being on the Erica James Travel Show. It has been a pleasure. And I'm telling you, my expectations were met because I'm telling you, I have listened to you, followed you, and I'm like, I just want to sit down and talk to her. And you have made my day, made my episode, and I love it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting me. It was my pleasure and my joy to speak with you. I had a great time with you, and I can't wait to hear the episode back.
Wonderful. I hope you enjoyed the video version of the Erica James Travel Podcast, episode number 47, with special guest dCarrie. If you would like to listen to more of my podcast episodes, please head over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast episodes and check out the Erica James Travel Show. And before you end this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can catch more of my travel videos and my podcast episodes on the YouTube channel. That's it for me, guys.